The Hanged Corpse. Kyusaku, Yumeno. It was a bench in some public park. In front of me, a fountain shot up into the twilight blue sky, rising, falling, rising again, and falling once more. As I listened to the sound of the water, I spread out several pages of the evening newspaper. And when I saw that none of them contained the article I was looking for, I gave a cold, cynical smile and crumpled them roughly into a ball. The article I was seeking concerned the body of a poor girl from the downtown district, a girl I had strangled to death in an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city about a month ago. I had been deeply involved with her in a romantic relationship, but one evening, when she came to see me wearing her hair in a traditional mama-wear style and dressed in a furosode kimono, her beauty was simply too much. I couldn't bear the suffocating pressure of it. I lured her to a small detached house near the 20X railway crossing in the suburbs, and there, as she stood in shock and confusion, I suddenly strangled her in one swift motion, finally feeling as though a great weight had been lifted from me. If I hadn't done it, I might have gone mad. That's what I told myself. Afterward, I took off her obi shigoki sash, tied it to the overhead beam, and arranged the scene to look like a suicide by hanging. Then, with a calm expression, I returned to my boarding house as if nothing had happened. From that day on, it became a habit. Every morning and evening, without fail, I came to this park, sat on this same bench, and browsed through 2 or 3 newspapers I'd bought at the entrance. All the while, I anticipated seeing a headline like, "Furosode, clad girl found hanged." But when I confirmed there was no such report anywhere, I would look up at the deep blue sky above the abandoned house and give a slight, sardonic grin. That, too, had become a habit. Today was no different. I crumpled the newspapers and tossed them under the bench. Then, with a cigarette between my lips, I turned my gaze toward the direction of the overcast sky and prepared to strike a match, smirking in my usual way. But at that moment, my eye caught a page of newspaper on the ground near my feet. I froze, breath caught in my throat. It was also the evening edition from today, open to the society section. Someone must have sat on this bench before me and discarded it here. And in the center of the page, in bold 3-column headlines, was a sensational article that jumped out at me like a jolt of electricity. Mysterious corpse found in abandoned house near the 20th railway crossing. Half-skeletal remains. Dead for about a month. Appears to be a young man in a business suit. As soon as I laid eyes on that article, I bolted out of the park in a daze. Somehow, without knowing how I got there, I found myself standing stupefied in front of the very abandoned house near the XX railway crossing scene of so many memories. Still clutching the newspaper in one hand, I suddenly became aware of it again and hastily glanced around. Seeing no one nearby, I steeled myself, opened the front door, and stepped inside. The house was almost pitch dark. Feeling my way through the gloom, I reached the back 8-tatami mat room where I had left the girl's hanging body. I struck a match and looked around. What I saw was unmistakably my own corpse. A belt was hooked over the beam. A cigarette still hung from my mouth. In my right hand, I held a match. In my left, the crumpled newspaper. The shock was so overwhelming, I felt my consciousness slipping away. As the flickering flame of the match dropped from my hand, a sliver of suspicion flashed in the corner of my mind. Could this be some elaborate trick by the police? But at that very moment, from the darkness behind me, an unexpected sound rang out, a young woman's laughter. There was no mistaking it. It was her voice, the very girl I had strangled. So now you finally understand how I felt.